Luton Airport, it has, as many of you may know, has long been established in the psyche of the UK public for holiday flights, and it started in the mid-60s. It has therefore always had a reasonably consistent flow of passengers through that airport, which have over the years grown. It was, indeed it still is, owned by the local authority, Luton Borough Council. They almost privatised it in the early 90s, and they did in fact privatise it in 1998. They privatised it by way of a concession, an operating concession in which they retained ownership of the airport itself and let the operation and the development of the airport to a third party. That third party pays to Luton Borough Council a concession fee, which is a number of pounds per passenger. And given that Luton's throughput is now 12 to 13 million passengers, that is obviously a substantial contribution to the local budget. So there is a financial interest for Luton Borough Council in maintaining the airport. There's also clearly an economic interest, because it is a big employer at the airport and brings a lot of ancillary businesses to the site. The major difference between Luton and Manston, unfortunately, is one of demand. Luton is 3 or 4 miles from the M1, with access to the Midlands and to London, North London. It's the most convenient airport for some parts of London. The shortest distance has a rail link with high frequency of services, half an hour or so, 40 minutes on perhaps a typical day from St Pancras. So the difference is, one, that Luton is a profitable airport and it has proven and maintained passenger demand from the airport. Our assessment of Manston was, if you draw a circle around Manston, 3/4 of it is water, approximately, in very crude terms. The demand, the passenger demand from the airport is not great. From the catchment area of the airport is a third of the catchment area from Southend, for example, set out in our report. So, yes, most councils, if they can tolerate the noise and the environmental intrusion of an airport, are very supportive of it, because it makes good business sense. And I'm sure if the demand for passenger demand or freight demand through Manston was greater, you wouldn't be debating the future of Manston from a perspective of wanting it back. Some of you will be talking about impact of aircraft noise on your constituents. But we're not in that situation, and in our view we won't be getting to that situation because the demand isn't sufficient to create a viable airport there. The analytical assessment is wholly consistent with the empirical evidence.
Why are you not now hearing from River Oak?
Thank you. Councillor Savage, please.
Thank you, Chairman. Just bear with me. My role this evening is to comment, and in this case, I feel to warn. This part of the local plan in itself is probably technically sound, having been prepared through the expertise of planning officers after considerable deliberation and consultation. However, for many, the proposed loss of Manston Airport is the principal issue. Owing to the enormous facilities at Thames Gateway and the multi-million-pound investment at Dover, this will always preclude Ramsgate Port's potential. Surely Thanet's best way to attract business and secure a strong economic future lies with the reopening of its principal asset, which of course is the airport. To build thousands of houses and lose the principal potential wealth generator in the area is surely madness. A couple of hours from Ramsgate Port only gets you to Calais, whereas in the same time an airport gives you access to most of Europe. in fact with the rest of the world, surely essential at a time when Britain is out to build trade worldwide. It should not be forgotten that in addition to campaigning to take us out of Europe, UKIP will also have closed the means by which business hoped to get there from the rest of the world. Finally, elected on a mandate to reopen the airport, but then bringing forward this local plan, if I were the leader here, I'd have to resign in sheer embarrassment, let alone over my complete failure to honour my electoral promise. I'm disappointed other members of the UKIP group here seem readily prepared to go along with all of this. That's really all I have to say, Chairman. Thank you.
Switch yourself off again, Councillor Savage. Okay. Councillor Gregory, please.
Thank you, Chairman. Well, interestingly, one of the areas of the local plan that's before us this evening I can't talk about is the one everyone else has been talking about. Because of my role on the planning committee and the fact that there is a live planning application for this very site, I will be totally wrong to comment on the airport side, because that is something that I must keep away from myself with regards to the planning committee. However, what I would like to point out is that this local plan is not just about Manston Airport or Manston Air, whatever it is. What it's about is the future of Thanet, and there's a lot of hard work gone into this by officers and members over the previous years. In fact, when I first joined this council in 1995, an old councillor, I'm afraid he's dead now, Councillor Ford, Roy Ford, said, "You're going to be on our local plan working group." And that was 22 years ago. I'm still on a flipping local plan working group. And just to make it even worse, we've been now warned that we should be working for the next one after 2031. About that point, my will to live almost walked out of the door. But the most important thing is, it is not just about Manston Airport, it's about Thanet, and it's about the future of Thanet and the way we deal with Thanet and the way the people of Thanet can hopefully prosper and thrive. A comment was made that the local plan is 6 years late, and I take that on board perfectly, but I don't blame our government for that. I blame the coalition government, because they did away with local plans for a short period of time and came up with something called a local development framework. And then Mr Pickles has moved on, and all of a sudden we went back to the local plan again. So there was a hiatus in the middle of all that, and it wasn't this council's doing, it was a previous government. And it's easy to blame, I know, but it's the facts. More importantly, I congratulate the officers on the work they've done, because they've worked really hard on this, and they've given the working group a lot of options. And a lot of these options are unpalatable, but a lot are sensible. And I think that hats off to them, and congratulations to you for doing that.
Thank you. Councillor Linda Piper, please.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for your comments about Luton Airport, but before I was elected on council, I was led to believe that Manston was not given permission to expand and went downhill from there on in. I may be wrong, but to say that there is no financial viability for Manston Airport, I disagree. Moving on, there seems to be a fundamental difference between the aspirations of the people of Ramsgate and the stated mission of this district council regarding the future development of the seaport and thus the town. TDC focuses on industrialisation for the future income stream at the port, and RTC uses the term diversification. This suggests two diametrically opposing visions. The National Planning Policy Framework, paragraphs 178 and 181 state that local planning authorities should work collaboratively with other bodies, and that local planning authorities will be expected to demonstrate evidence of having effectively cooperated and make every effort to secure the necessary cooperation before submitting their local plan. There seems to be very little evidence of serious cooperation or collaborative thinking with regard to the port between the two councils. The TDC plan is outlined in the Economic Growth Strategy for Thanet, a document that costs some £55,000 to produce, and yet it doesn't appear to mention public consultation with regard to port development. For our part, we have Ramsgate Town Council, Neighbourhood Plan Team, Town Promotion Team, Coastal Communities Team, and the Heritage Action Zone Team. These groups are all working together on a visionary strategy for Ramsgate. You might call it our very own 5-point plan. The significance of the Project Motorhouse and the Ramsgate Sprint Revival also seem to be ignored by TDC, perhaps because they do not fit in with their industrial plans. The Sprint Revival won the Obelisk Events Award last year and was described as the best new Thanet event.
Councillor Piper, this is the local plan. It's not about the event strategy or individual potential planning applications. It is about the local plan, please.
Okay, thank you for that. These supporters are capable of raising significant funds, but why should they do that, this Project Motorhouse, if they feel that the District Council will not support them? Their plans to increase tourism in our town and bring the obvious benefits to local businesses are deemed by TDC.
Councillor Piper, local plan, please, not event.
But the local plan must encompass Ramsgate, and Ramsgate must have the tourism and the attraction for visitors to keep it going. Over the years we've lived there, Ramsgate town has gone downhill and downhill, and no council has ever seemed to take any positive action to put Ramsgate back on the local map and the local plan.
Thank you.
Members, if I had a little more time, I would do a better job of highlighting further estrangement between the two councils. I've been a teacher for over 30 years and would have to say that this draft local plan, if it was offered to me as a project from a group of students, I would send it back marked, more details needed. There's not enough evidence of cooperation between the groups. You must try harder. Cabinet, please do not rush this through tonight. Please instead give it the time it needs to get our local plan right and give the public something better to consider.
Thank you.
Jenny.
Thank you. Mr. Court now? Okay. Councillor Taylor-Smith, please.
Thank you, Chairman. I'm not going to say anything that others have said, but I'd just like to thank the portfolio holder for suggesting an extra 2 weeks in the consultation, because I think that's really important to allow our residents and businesses and others and town and parish councils, most importantly, to actually give their comments on all of the things that you've mentioned, and the green space is one I think is quite important, and that will guide, I think, a lot of things in the future, planning applications and so on. I would just like to ask what form this consultation is going to take. Are there going to be road shows, drop-in sessions, or what? Press advertising, obviously the website should play a leading role, but it would be just nice to know what sort of events, if you like, are planned. And I was going to ask you a little bit about the timing, because you did say that later on there will be an opportunity for further comments. Now, I'm just looking at the next steps on page 71. So once this consultation is complete, it says comments will be considered and a final pre-submission draft plan will be published to allow final comments. Now, how long is it going to be for those final comments? And again, how is that going to be promoted to the community? Thank you.
I'll pass you over to the officer who has a better idea of the timeline than myself.
Thank you. We are in discussions with the Council's communications team about how we can best make this accessible to people. We're looking at the website, we're looking at drop-in sessions and leaflets and so on. So we are looking at quite a wide range of ways in which we can engage with people. and the idea is to have a series of drop-in sessions through the whole period of the consultation. In terms of the next stage, it's probably a bit early to be able to say what the nature of that consultation will be. The statutory minimum consultation period is for 6 weeks. The pre-submission stage is slightly more complicated. What happens is that we collate the responses and send them to an inspector, and the comments have to be made on what are called issues of soundness. I won't bore everybody with the soundness tests, but there are 4 tests, and people are expected to explain why they think a local plan is unsound, and then they can present that to an inspector at the examination.
Okay, was that cover all the bits you wanted? Okay, thank you. And Councillor Rozecki, please.
Thank you, Chair. Just a quick question, and it's why is it that UKIP is promoting building housing on greenfield sites, when in fact it's our policy, UKIP policy, to build houses on brownfield sites?
Thank you. Councillor Fairbanks, please.
You're correct. UKIP policy is to promote brownfield sites, but having used most of our brownfield sites already, and in an environment where a Conservative government talks about housing crisis in order to create an economic miracle based on house building, where a Conservative county council is desperate to take over the local plan in order to further their growth agenda based on house building, where 2 Conservative MPs attempt to brush away their government's involvement in house building as a local responsibility, it would also seem that the local Conservatives here are in self-denial of a simple truth. The building boom is a Conservative-led, Conservative-supported, greenfield-spoiling project which the Conservative government is forcing on local councils up and down the country.
Thank you. I'm sure, like many other questions we heard tonight, you would have known where some of that was coming from as well. Cabinet, we're happy to move this plan forward for local... Oh, sorry, Councillor Britt.
Don't forget about me. Right, thank you, Mr. Chairman. The local plan has seen a lot of attention and objection from residents, especially with the last consultation. It is an issue which is close to Thanet people's hearts, and the consultation allows the public to feedback on the Council's policy for the coming years. I do not wholly agree with everything in the local plan, in the fact that I represent a community that feels seriously affected by many issues. I therefore want the consultation to be as fair as possible for my electorate and Thanet as a whole. Tonight I want to discuss the basis of the consultation to ensure people have a fair chance and time to give their comments to the Council, as the content of the local plan will be discussed by many during the consultation period. Points that still need clarification: to ensure that the affordable housing shortage percentage is known at the time of consultation. It states in point 2.27 in the updated strategic housing market assessment that this has been revised and will have to be considered alongside viability issues. At what percentage will affordable housing be set? On point 2.42 during the consultation, concerns were raised about the loss of best and most versatile agricultural land in the local plan. This clearly does not act as a constraint, but only a partial one. It does not state anything further. When will the Thanet Joint Transportation Strategy be? With regards to water and water efficiency, additional need for water, the IDB states that water will come from Canterbury and delivery past 2031. Is there a risk of this not being met in Canterbury's local plan, and what assurances do we have of this? 4 possible proposals: that Thanet Joint Transportation Strategy consultation is at the same time as the local plan consultation, to ensure that all information on housing and highways are fully considered, including funding. My next point was to suggest that we extend the consultation period. However, Given the Deputy Leader has already suggested this, I welcome her proposal. In light of a possible DCO occurring at the airport, I feel the Council need to explain where the 2,500 houses allocated will go. It is stated that 180 acres of greenfield land will need to be found. That the Council includes a planning policy in respect of Brexit and to give reassurances that the objectively excess needs of housing numbers will be reviewed in light of it. We do, however, need to be very clear that the guidelines that we are working to are those of a Tory government. The penalties that we are threatened with are once again those of a Tory government. The takeover we are concerned about comes from a Tory-led county council, yet local Tory MPs and district councillors would have everyone believe it has nothing to do with them.
Thank you, Councillor Broom. Councillor Fairbrass.
We're looking at 30% affordable housing on 10 or more houses. Most of our area, I'm afraid, is best farming land. The transport strategy, most of that is in the report. It is just making the final decisions on where the housing allocations will lie so that KCC can complete the report. The Water Board has a statutory duty to supply any housing, so they will be working alongside officers and all environmental and necessary appraisals will be done on every site as it goes forward in the plan, and even after that all of those appraisals will be done on a site-to-site basis when they come before the planning committee. The 2,500 houses would have to go probably across Westgate, Birchington and Westwood. Housing needs are reviewed periodically anyway. We are not out of the EU yet, so we can't make any calculation based on after Brexit at this time.